Hi everyone, welcome to the Quantum Bridge. Myself, Gary. We've got Casper as usual, and we've got John returning. Welcome back to the show again, John.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome. Casper, I'm going to pass it over to you because I think you remember where we got up to in John's story. Hopefully,
You just mean I've been doing my homework,
you
unlike him.
have, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know John
Typical,
doesn't
yeah.
remember because he said he doesn't, so we are relying on yourself. So,
I'm just the SWAT amongst the three of us. Fair enough. Yeah, nothing changes and all that. John, hi mate, welcome.
All right, what's up, Cass? Nice to be on
Nice to
again.
see you,
Thank
mate.
you.
It's good to have you back. We've done, I think, 3 of these. So part 4. The intention is to sort of wrap things up. But given your enormous fan base, you know, they'll be obviously clamouring for more. And we'll see how we get on. But anyway, just to remind you, we've got up to a point where you'd left a short hiatus being knocked off your bike rather than just falling off a bike, doing your cycle courier work. And I think you just started to get sort of the semblance of sort of real work maybe at Cyclone. So a bicycle shop not far from where your parents were based and so on. So maybe you can just pick up from there, mate. Be great to hear sort of what happened next.
All right. So, but yeah, I took you through the beginnings of that shop, yeah, where I was going in and we built up this relationship, and then
That's right.
And then I got to like where we started doing uni and a bit more frequent. I think that's where we got to.
Literally, we hadn't even touched on that bit yet. What had happened was you'd been going in and then they invited you to come in. They didn't really have the money, but you know, you sort of got on board a bit. You started to improve on things like a bit of ad direction.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Artwork and whatever.
Right.
And literally, we got to about that point. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So when we'd got a bit further in, where there was like American guys would come and visit the shop because it became a bit of a name. We'd got past that.
No,
bit, yeah?
we hadn't even got to that bit yet.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's a spoiler alert. Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me take it from there then. So I started working there and helping, as you say, with the ads and helping with the direction of the shop and basically like reaching out to making it a more legit shop than what it would have been without any riders there. Basically, I was like really in it as deep as I am now. So I had a lot of contacts and knew a lot of people on the scene, and there was no shop really in the London area, so that was the place to go. And because we was advertising in the mags, we kind of was getting like a bit of a mail order thing going as well, which was slowly creeping forward, you know, as we made these more prominent. So the ads went from half page to full page. Then I had to learn how to use a computer, and we basically I got them to get a computer. This was the next stage where we used to originally the ads, we'd send some stuff to the mags, to Ride magazine, or Dig. There was 2 magazines, and we'd ask them, oh, can you lay an ad out like we want this of these brands and blah blah blah, and they'd go, okay, we've got a photo of this guy we can use who's related to the shop or rides to the shop for the shop. So they went from there. we started getting quite popular because the people in the ads were other core riders that have been doing it for a long time, from the 80s basically to the, say we're in the mid 90s now. No, we're in the late 90s, so 97, and we go, and it's BMX is coming back big, like it's really growing and it's really getting like exciting. It's all like real good stuff. It's the best it's ever been in its history at this point. So then we would go to like these bike events, the bike shows, which was just taking off, and visiting American pros would come and visit our shop, and like they'd come to the shop. For instance, I would take them into London on a little sightseeing, like, oh, we'll go to Soho and we'll go around Big Ben and we'll do all the touristy stuff. These guys, most of them had never been to the UK before, so it was quite like a good little highlight for them. And then from there, like where people had seen, like there's these like hugely influential riders coming from the US and they're coming to our shop. That again blew us out again, you know. So then I had to learn how to use a computer. So I taught these guys. So I was like, right, I'll do the ads don't know nothing about computers, never owned a computer in my life. Talked them into getting an iMac. Remember them old iMacs with a horrible mouse, with like the perfectly round mouse.
Yeah.
So we got one of them because that was the cheapest thing we could get. And then I had to get lessons off this guy who was one of my friend's roommates who could use this equipment. So slowly started learning how to use it. It's really, like, for me, really difficult because I don't know nothing about computers.
Yeah. No starting
like,
point, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a whole new thing, a whole new language, and I was useless for ages. And then slowly got where it just became a thing that I had to keep doing. I kind of figured it out a little bit. So that was good, you know. And that from there, that again, then it was double page spread in the mags, which was like, so I had to take photos of all the products, cut them out, lay out. I was just doing everything, you know, other than taking the photo. I didn't do that at that point.
So were you using something like Quark at that time?
That's exactly it. Yeah, and I still quite like Quark. I haven't got it.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's before InDesign took over from everything.
That's it. Yeah. I thought it was great, really. Like, as long as you did everything good enough in Photoshop, like Quark was a good thing. So yeah, that's exactly what I was using.
And can I just ask John, just a quick one? How did the American riders? They found out about you guys via just bicycle shows that BMX was part of, or they'd seen in the mag? Where did they actually find out about the shop from? And I take it, just to check, this is before the whole sort of union years really took off. So can you just give me a little bit of orientation?
Okay, yeah, no worries. So I had good friends who I've still got good friends who were at the main distributor at the time, which was 70s, and they were like the people that blew up part of the BMX scene. They had this big jam called the Backyard Jam in Hastings. So the Americans used to come over for their jams. So I'd met, and because I've been to the US as well, I already knew a few.
Yeah.
And then they would sort of push these guys towards us, like this is the core shop that does the core stuff. These guys have all got brands or ride for brands that we sell. So we kind of got, and it became and because I knew a lot of them as well, a lot of the people associated with the ones I knew wanted to come anyway. So not only did we get like a little bit of an usher in from the distributor, but I knew some of the guys anyway. So it did made a lot of sense, you know? So yeah, that's how we got that connection. And so Union is already going at this point, but it's just t-shirts, caps, ads in mags, like stickers, and it's quite humble at the minute.
And what about as a group? I mean, is this anything that's sort of moving towards being a company? Is it already a company? Is it never a company? What form had Union taken just before that and started to take coming out of that?
So it started at this point in time. So we'd printed a t-shirt before, and we printed stickers like through friends who worked at print companies had printed stickers for us, and like it was very small. And then it became like we've got an ad in a mag, we're going to do something with this now because we've got this shop that we can sort of push this out from. So then it became like, you know, 30 t-shirts, 20 caps, 20 hooded tops, like. So then it became, but it was rolling because BMX at that point was like rolling fast. It rolled really quick with it because you know, like everything was going like, so that it just naturally rolled out fast. And we had some influential people who I did it with, who were the riders, that also helped. They were like major names within that period. So yeah, that's where we was at that point. It just rolled really quick from there.
And that was just basically a group of mates, your sort of crew, that had come together around that, or did it become more formalized at all, or not?
No, it was, yeah, it did at one point. It did, like we had American riders and all kinds of stuff was going on, yeah. But it was predominantly, the first incarnation was myself, Jerry Galley, and Stuart King. You probably remember Jerry Galley, right? So
I remember Jerry, yeah.
So that was the first three, and then it went to my friend Adam Peters and Martin Orme, which was like, that was the first team video, was those guys with us. So, and then it grew from there pretty fast. So
yeah, amazing. And so in terms of sort of money and actually making a living? Because part of the reason to do the shop thing, I know it was a passion as well, although that wasn't just a BMX shop, obviously, to begin with. It might have become more of a BMX shop, but a lot of it was just to get off sort of having to sign on and to get some money in or whatever. So over those years, sort of, I don't know, this is towards the end of the 90s, did you actually start to, you know, be able to make a living out of your passion, really? So everything to do with BMX, or was that still a slog at that point?
No, 100%. I was at this point in time, I didn't really even, so I was getting paid for my shop work. Like basically those guys didn't ride BMX at all. One guy didn't even ride a bike. So one guy was a mountain bike guy who used to do all the repairs and stuff like that, and like all the technicalities of bikes. And the other guy was just sort of manned the shop. And I was doing like all the other stuff. And it was predominantly a BMX shop. Like,
right.
That's what it was known. That's why it survived for so long. So I was receiving a salary from those guys in the shop, and Union, even though at first it started slow but rolled out fast, all that money went through the shop. So it was like it got really complex at one point.
Yeah,
and I had to sort of break it back to myself because it got big.
Yeah,
like it got, and then it became quite like it became complicated then. So basically, like what happened there. Do you want me to fast forward this bit because we're going to be going forever? So
yeah, you can do it as you see fit, but remember, we can always revisit things. So don't.
So what happened was, like, I weren't even paying any attention to what the money was going into the union stuff, because I had a salary and I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, and I could afford to do what I wanted to do. So it was like, you know, I'm naive. I've never really had a proper job, and I'm just rolling with it and just, this is cool. And then it got to a stage where it's like, well, I'm doing a lot for this shop. People think that this place is mine, and it's not. So like, really, I need a part of this shop, or you just need to give me that stuff back. Like, that finance can't be going to you. I need something else from this, which,
yeah.
So I had to try and regain that, which was fair enough, and they did, but it became really like a power struggle from what happened. And like, yeah, it wasn't, and they basically, I had like worldwide distribution at one point, and those guys were the UK distributor, and they just owed me a ton of money, which I never got because the shop kind of went south for various reasons. And one of the big US guy that sold a lot of my stuff also owed me a ton of money, and both of those closed without me getting that money at all, which kind of
And
sucked.
did they close because there was a downturn again in the world of sort of BMX, or was it other reasons?
That shop got really mismanaged, like, for many years, and then there was a downturn. So, and then, you know, like, when there's a downturn in any business, I think most people, because they've hit such a high, that shop was really popular and they sold a ton of shit. Because they've reached such a high, you just think, which I think is natural, you think, oh, you know, next month will be all right. It'll get better in the summer. Oh, I've had a shit year. Next year, I'll probably come back again. And so you have, like, that can carry on as it did for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then it was in bits. Yeah. Like the place was irredeemable, you know, like, so. And then the one guy, he suffered a few heart attacks, which like took him out of the shop, probably from worry from that shop, you know, and all the stress. Yeah. So it just kind of, it really just crumbled and fell. Yeah.
And what happened to you at that point? Did you have to then take another leap?
I'd gone from 5 days a week to 3 days a week to 2 days a week. And then it was just like, there's no point in me coming in, you know, and this was slowly over the years. I didn't, and then as I was going down to these days, I was trying to push Union into like hardware, which is, we still do some of it now. So I was like, I could see that this is not good. These guys don't want me to be really involved in their shop, even though, I mean, natural, every time that there's an issue, they look to me like, well, what do we do with this? Like, how do we, so like, like for instance, a website, all right, I'll go and find out about a website and I'll try and get, so every issue, oh, we got all these shoes, like, what are we going to do? And it was like, at not one point did they really take control of these problems. They were just like, what are you going to do about this? And I was just like, well, this is not mine.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I imagine that was a nightmare for you, John. But thinking about it going forward, it's like a lot of the different paths we've all taken in life, it seems, that these really tough periods and times, that did mean you probably learnt a lot, not least about how to run your own stuff and whatever, and all those other aspects. So just quickly going forward, just so you can look back, do you now feel that some of those lessons were worth it, or do you just consider that a difficult time in your life?
Yeah, no. Well, if I could go back, I would have definitely left sooner. Like,
Gary knows all about that,
right? Yeah. So when you think about it, like, ultimately, like, there's nothing that they can do for you if they're gonna drown. Like, you know what I mean? So, and they're not gonna save me if they're gonna drown. So I should have gone earlier, like, and that would have been simple. But I think I've got quite a good loyalty to people. I was with them. I wanted to stick with them, but it became, by the time it was like time to go, it was really evident that that it was time to go. Whereas I should have gone before and then let them do whatever they were going to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
but with hindsight, things
we would have been the enemy, you know?
Yeah.
But like, but that was what had to happen.
So
Yeah.
coming back out of that then, so I take it everything dipped, including Union to some degree, but that sort of stayed around and then re-emerged in a new light, did it? So what was your next venture, and how did Union progress as part of that?
So during all this time of doing like adverts and web and stuff like this, I got a camera to take photos to update the website and use my own pictures for our ads. So I kind of learned a bit about photography. So during this point in time, this crossover, I'm taking photos for Ride magazine and doing some articles for them. So that was like another little thing that helped me along. And I was
a side hustle.
Yeah, which was fairly easy and it was fairly fun. So that was all right. So when that went, I still had that to fall back on, and I still had Union stuff. So I could still keep afloat a bit, you know. It was enough to keep me going. So that was that, yeah.
And did you start to think about your own sort of retail angle, whether that be, I mean, it's only the emergence of online coming into play, you know, into the 2000s and whatever. So it'd be early for that. So did you have any sort of vision about, you know, I've seen what it could have been and it didn't quite end up being what it might have been. Did you start to think about making other alliances around the business side?
There was a 4Down Distribution who was still my distributor. They were distributing Union stuff. So I didn't, that was sort of selling anyway. And I got talked into doing another shop, which is the shop I'm in now. But I didn't actually want to do another shop. I was like, fuck that. I've done my time in shops. I don't want to be in there anymore. But it ended up, you know, it didn't really work out as we thought it would. So the debt that they owed me, I got the tax back on it. So that's how I ended up with the money to start this place.
Right.
So you could guess it was a fair amount of money, you know, especially for back then. And that's how this came about. And
did that come about via a partnership with somebody else as well at the beginning? Or
with the guy who talked me into it. But like, certain things happened that kind of, it just didn't pan out as what we originally had planned and thought. So yeah, it ended up being me anyways. But yeah.
So when was that? What sort of time did Volt come into existence?
Volt started in 2009. And I think Cyclone closed in 2007. So basically I had like a year out.
Right.
A bit more, a year and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we got this place. So yeah, that's how we ended up here, and that's how this came about. And I already had the connections and I had the know-how, but I just didn't want to do it. Because I was like, man, I don't want to do that anymore. But yeah, anyway, here we are. I like it, so it's cool.
Yeah, well, in the end, you've got something that is fundamentally yours, and you're certainly the face of it, and you're plugged into all these relationships. So just quickly jumping back to that whole thing, because we passed over it fairly quickly, of American riders, because obviously we touched on the fact that, you know, Southern California was sort of the go-to and the aspirational place for anybody who's into BMX in the UK. So to actually have those relationships and maybe starting to sponsor some of those guys, were you sponsoring them as Union, or was it as that other shop? How did that work?
No, it was Union. We had some real, like, some of the big well-known riders were sporting our stuff and like sporting it real nice for us as well. Like big names who people had to pay lots of money. Suddenly, like, we just had good relationship with people, and because we got in sort of early, the real influential guys in the late 90s, some of the other guys that came up after had looked at these guys and been like, that's cool product, and that image, I like that stuff. So we got a bit of a rub from that, where those guys coming up after were like, no, this is cool. This guy used to wear it. So people helped me out tons, you know. So that was really good. Yeah.
So you weren't having to spend millions of dollars on sponsoring these guys. So was a lot of this sponsorship to just they like wearing your Union stuff?
Yeah. It was just like gloves, t-shirts, clothing, and stuff like that. And it was, it just worked out really well. We got a bit of a vibe, and it carried on for a little while, and it became a bit sought after in the US. So that was nice. Yeah.
John, was there any overlap at that point into the whole thing of, I know you do obviously you're a talented guy when it comes to art and design. So things like the tattoos as well, did that cross over as well as part of this at that time, or did that come later?
That was well, if we're in the night, no, that came a little bit later. It wasn't like late 90s. This was like early 2000s, the tattoo stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But by the time you had the shop towards the end of the noughties, that was underway, was it, the tattoo side of things?
Yeah.
Okay, so coming out of that, so the culmination of the old shop that wasn't yours falling away, the new one coming out of that, and then sort of your movement into this whole area of your own podcast as well. Where has all this sort of, was it because you had some time on your hands? People aren't always in the shop, right? Unfortunately, I'm sure they're in there a lot. They certainly are when I come there. You normally got people there. So what happened in terms of these other, did you just have the time and inclination to do other things? Because, you know, if you run in a shop, which you are, and it's a real go-to place and probably the only BMX shop in London, is that right?
And there's like 3 or 4 shops like this in the UK. They've nearly all gone. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you're holding out in that bastion of that thing of BMX, and then you've got these little other things going on, which all sort of, you know, they sort of cross-pollinate, or whatever anybody wants to say. And then you've got this aspect more recently of your own Union Tapes, the podcast, which I really enjoy, and I know loads of other people do, that are getting that sort of, you seem to me to be getting that that sort of traction and that bit of it all opening up, and that network coming out, which is a lovely thing to see. Is that very, very recent?
The podcast stuff?
Yeah.
Very recent in terms of our age. Yeah. So like, we just passed 2 years. I think the last episode was 2 years old. So yeah,
right.
I've been doing it for 2 years. Just over 2, probably 2.5 years, because we started and we gathered some before we actually put them out. So yeah, it is recent. And I basically, do you want me to tell you the story of how it started?
Yeah, if you can, if you can condense it. Yeah.
So you got. I'm going to say, unfortunately, say we've got like a few minutes. So
I see it. So I watched this show called the New York Hardcore Chronicles. It's by a guy called Drew Stone. It's a music podcast. He sort of show. He does it live, and then it goes on YouTube, and he you know, it's there forever. So I watched him, and I was like just absorbing it, and they was doing 3 shows a week, and I was watching all of them, and I was taking them all in, and they were mind-blowingly amazing. I was finding out all this amazing info about these guys in these bands that I've looked up to for years and years. and they was always, the shows were good. The shows had good vibe. They had really well researched, and you know, brings video up, brings pictures up. It's all go, very approachable people, really good host. And he was like, I was watching that. No one was doing a UK podcast. There's a few American ones. They're a bit average, not really my thing. And I was like, this in BMX would be fucking amazing. I guess I'm gonna do it. Like, so it was like, nobody else is gonna do this. Fuck it, I'm gonna do it. So I did it. I'd much rather someone else did it, so I didn't have to do the work. But fuck it, I love it anyway. So I'm doing it, and that's that. Yeah, and I think it works out, and that's all the stuff that I like. So yeah, thanks to Drew Stone, because he was the guy that basically inspired me to make it happen.
Yeah, brilliant. Look, we probably are running completely out of time now. John, I think actually it's quite nice because what it has done is open that window to the Union tapes. And I think we do that not as really your life story, but we come back together and we do a chat about the genesis of the Quantum Bridge and the genesis of the Union tapes and where it's you know, what's happened, where we're at and where it's going to. I think that'd be really nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm up for touching upon some rebellion as well. So all good.
Yeah, and maybe then we can do things slightly outside what we've touched on so far. And
that'd be amazing. Yeah, they're the real spicy ones. Yeah.
Yeah. We saved the best for last. All right, mate. For now, thank you very much, mate.
All right, man. Thanks very much for having me again.
See you soon.
Take care. See you later.
Cheers, John. Bye, mate.